Hello, I'm here at the Key Peninsula Historical Society Museum. My name is Don Joseph and I'm with Bob Whitman today, and we're going to discuss a little bit of his history here on the Key Peninsula and a little bit of his service background. Bob was born on October 15th, 1946, and he enrolled in the first grade at Vaughn Elementary. So Bob, would you like to share some of your earliest memories of Vaughn Elementary with us?
Well, I like school. I like reading. I learned to read. And my mother had been a teacher, so she helped me at home. And I did pretty good, especially in grade school. In fact, when I was in fourth grade, we had a reading contest. Who could read the most books? I won, and my prize was a book. So
All right.
that was one of the highlights. And I was also in band in grade school. I played the saxophone. My instructor was Mr. Cozart. I had him in high school too.
Do you remember about how many students were in the elementary school at that time? Or in your particular grade?
I'd say about 20 in my grade, and total of less than 200.
Yeah, okay. This would be 1961.
Yeah, yeah. I graduated in '61 from Vaughn.
Right. Okay, after that, then you went on to Peninsula High School. Do you want to share some of your memories there?
Okay, I did pretty well in high school. I was on the honor roll, I think all 4 years. And I was in band for 2 years. We used to march in the Daffodil Parade, which they don't do now. I think is a mistake. And but in my sophomore and junior year, I sold my saxophone and bought a car, so I had a new interest. And I figured with a car, a lot easier to get a girlfriend than a horn. And that turned out to be true.
And what kind of a chick magnet did you get?
I got a 57 Oldsmobile 98 convertible, a former Daffodil Parade car. It was yellow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was in the Daffodil Parade?
Yeah, before my time, yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Did it work in attracting the ladies?
Yeah, well, I had one lady, one girlfriend. Yeah.
Okay, so then what were your favorite classes there at Peninsula High School?
I always liked math, algebra, trig. Yeah. Let's see what else. I did good in typing. And probably my favorite class was auto shop.
Great.
I took that 2 years. That was after I bought the car.
Okay, then I understand from there you went to Olympic College. Could you share some of your experiences there?
Well, I lived at home during that time, and I carpooled with a couple of other students, Rob Collins and Danny Stencil. And we rode in every day together and took turns driving. And I got a good education there. I was glad I went to junior college instead of directly to a 4-year school, because it was a lot cheaper. I could live at home and I pretty much paid my way all through college.
Great. So after you'd done the 2 years at Olympic College, you went on to the University of Washington. Could you share some of your experiences there?
Yeah, well, the first year there, my junior year of college, I roomed just off campus with my next door neighbor, a guy named Terry Murphy. And then between my junior and senior years, I got married in that summer. And then I lived in a housing project in South Seattle.
Uh-huh.
I should mention, when I was at Olympic College, they required 2 PE credits to graduate. So I took mountaineering, and that got me into hiking. Every weekend we went, rain or shine, to climb some mountain, it seemed like.
Were most of those mountains in the Olympics, or did you come over and climb some here in the Cascades?
Well, most were in the Olympics, but one thing we did, we went up to Mount Rainier Paradise, and we were to teach or learn a survival training. So we dug a snow cave in the side of the hill and spent the night there. And the theory was your body heat would warm you up. It wasn't true. I froze to death and got wet.
What was your favorite mountain climb in this class?
Let's see, probably Mount Eleanor was a good one. We climbed several, Lightning Peak, Mount Washington, a few more. All of the brothers, we climbed that and spent the night up there on the saddle between the 2 peaks.
Yeah. Well, that's a good mountaineering class
Yeah.
to take at school.
Yeah, we had really good instructors. There was always somebody, usually 3 or 4 people that were helping on the hikes that were very experienced. In fact, one guy had climbed Mount Everest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you happen to recall his name?
Yeah, I think it was Kent Heathershaw.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
And that was before it was really popular like it is now.
Sure. That's great. Okay, and then, you, from what I understand, you were working in the summers in the shipyard off and on a little bit, and then you went on and got your master's degree. Could you share a little bit of that with us?
Yeah, it was the Navy paid for, I think, my tuition and half my books. And it was a good deal because the instructor came right to the building I worked in after work, and I took most of my classes there. And 2 guys and me from my office entered the master's program, and the program was geared to underwater acoustics. So being in the torpedo business, it fit right in with my job.
What were you working on most of the time with your job in the shipyard?
Torpedo in the shipyard where I worked in the design for the division. And the communication stuff, all electrical, and shipbuilding.
Okay. And then I understand you moved over to the Keyport Naval Undersea Museum, or ship. How do you say that now? The Keyport
Naval Underwater Weapons Center.
Right. And that's where you spent most of your working career. Do you want to share some of your experiences
when
there?
I initially went there, I was in a management training program where I rotated around the country to different Navy labs for a 3-year period. I spent 6 months at each place. I went to California, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. And so I traveled quite a bit. And also while working back east in Naval Sea Systems, and I did quite a bit of foreign travel. I went to France, England, Scotland, Ecuador and Peru, and probably a couple other places.
What were your experiences out here on the Key Peninsula while you were commuting out to Keyport? Was that a lot of dirt roads at that time, or were they all paved? Or
I got my first car when I was 12 years old. Me and my brother went in halves, $10 a piece for a total of $20, and my dad drove it home, a 38 Chevy. And of course, we weren't old enough to drive on the highways, so we drove in our backyard. We had our long driveway, and the car ran good, but somebody cut the back half off and mounted a buzzsaw. So we jacked up the rear wheel and put on a belt with a couple of pulleys, and we could saw wood. And it was a car ran okay, except it had no brakes. It never had brakes. Yeah.
How long would it take you to get to work from, say, Minter to Keyport at that time?
It took about 45 minutes.
Okay.
And pretty much the whole time I carpooled with other guys, so we took turns driving.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's see. After 37 years, I understand you retired from the civil service in 2003. Is that
correct?
Yeah. Okay. Could you share with us what you've done now with all of your spare time over the last kind of basically 20 years?
The last 4 years I've been trying to stay alive. Have some health problems. I had a stroke and I got a bad heart, but other than, and I can't see. But other than that, I read a lot, watch TV. Before that, when I was able, I did a lot of hiking with my hiking buddies, Ron Kingsbury and Ron Schillinger. And we hiked all over. And my wife went with us sometime. Oh, she wasn't into it like I was. And worked on cars and motorcycles.
Now, in 1984, I understand you married your second wife, Flavia.
Right.
And she's here, and I'll have her discuss her experiences out here on the Key Peninsula in our next session. Tell us a little bit about your trips to Sturgis on the motorcycles. We all have heard stories, but quite often we haven't heard stories right from somebody that's been there. We hear about them on television or something like that.
Both my parents were from Sturgis area, so I'm familiar with the country back there. So when the motorcycle rally came out every year, me and my brother and a couple other guys and my wife rode my Harley back there. And it was a fun trip. I could say we had a good time just watching other bikers back there partying and dancing and what else.
Hitting the road or the motorcycles.
Yeah.
By then you're probably a little bit mature to join into the parties too much, huh?
Yeah, I
was.
was mostly an observer, but yeah.
What kind of motorcycle did you take to Sturgis?
In 2000, I bought a new Harley in Tacoma from a dealer, and so I rode that, and with my wife on behind me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Do you remember the make and the model?
Yeah, it was a soft shell a Harley.
Neat. How many days did it take you to get to Sturgis from here?
Well, I guess it took about 5 days. The one problem we had is this group I rode with, they couldn't pass a bar, they had to stop. So, lengthened, we're good for about 300 miles a day, which some guys do that in 1 or 2 days, but we took almost a week.
Good, you made a party of it, coming
Yeah.
and going then, huh?
Right.
Probably. Okay. What type of books do you like to read?
I read both fiction and nonfiction. I like adventure stories, and nonfiction, I like history. I like books about the presidents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What major events out here on the Key Peninsula stand out in your mind from the past?
Nothing really comes to mind. We mostly grew up trying to stay out of trouble,
Uh-huh.
and when we used we started driving a highway about 14 or 15, so we had one sheriff at that time, Harry Anchor. When he drove by, we knew that was it for the day. We're good to go. So, yeah, we had drag races in front of our house.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Were you around for the Key Peninsula or Key Center fire at all? Do you remember that, or were you maybe?
I think I
Out of
was
the area.
living in Maryland at that
Oh,
time.
okay.
Yeah, I miss that.
Mm-hmm. Were the roads paved as long as you can remember, or do you recall?
Kind of. What the way they paved it is they dumped gravel on the road, and then they dumped oil on it and let the cars do the paving part. It was pretty dusty, the road by our house. We didn't have that much traffic though. So every time a car came by, we'd see a big dust flood.
Yeah. Now you've been real active here with the Key Peninsula Historical Society. Do you want to share some of your experiences and some of the things you've worked on there? I know you've been a director at one time and vice president, I think. And
well, I've done some oral history interviews and different projects. I worked with Don Mills, just kind of keeping things going.
mm-hmm. Very good. Okay, well that's pretty much what I have. Can you think of anything that I might not have touched on or that you'd like to expand on?
Can I repeat my hobbies?
Oh yeah.
Genealogy, reading, cars and motorcycles, and what was the fourth one? Hiking.
Hiking, right.
Which I don't do now, but I did quite a bit. I did quite a bit around Mount Rainier and a lot in the Olympics and a little bit down in, I gave her Pinchot National Forest,
Oh, yeah.
have a cabin down there on the Caldas River.
Oh, you still have the cabin?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. Do you get down there quite a bit or very often?
A couple times a year, not too much.
Nice.
But I used to go down. I built the cabin myself, so I used to go down a lot when I first bought the property.
Boy, that sounds like quite a project, building your own cabin on the
Yeah,
river.
yeah.
Yeah. That is, can you share a little bit about what type of books, well, you mentioned that a little bit, that you like to read? Any particular authors or any
Yeah.
particular?
I like Brad Thor. He writes kind of spy stories, and John Sanford and John Grisham.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, very good. What about television? What type of television programs do you enjoy?
I like the old programs. I like the ones, Gunsmoke, In the Heat of the Night, cop shows.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So really appreciate you taking the time today to share some of your life experiences with us and here on the Key Peninsula. And if you've got anything else you want to add or can think of.
I'd like to talk a little bit about genealogy.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, please do.
I
Yeah.
have a third grade grandfather that was in the Revolutionary War. So based on that, I got enough documentation together to get my two female cousins into the DAR. And so that was one thing I accomplished.
Uh-huh.
And I had a great-great-grandfather that was on my mother's side that was killed in the Civil War. Quite a few ancestors in the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
So my family's been kind of associated with the military for a long time. My dad was in World War II in North Africa, and my brothers were both in the military. The older one, who's deceased now, was retired from the Army, and my other younger brother was in the Navy in Vietnam.
Have you given any thoughts about putting all this together in some kind of a document or a book?
Yeah, well, I think I have it on a CD, all my ancestors,
Uh-huh.
back to the Civil War, or back to Revolutionary War.
Great.
And I believe the family name was originally Whitman, not Whitman.
Oh.
The story is two brothers immigrated here to Rhode Island from England in the mid-17th centuries, and they're descendants from a guy named Edward Whitman, who was he had the honor of being the last man burned at the stake in England for heresy.
Oh.
So, it was for religious reasons. He started his own church and had some followers, and the king didn't like that. The Church of England was the only choice. So they initially burned him at the stake, and he recanted, and he they let him loose. And then, not too smart, he started preaching again. And the second time they burned him to a crisp.
Oh. Oh boy.
So, yeah.
Well, that would be interesting to get all that down in some kind of a book form, or
Yeah, there's a book on that guy.
yeah, is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have all my relatives, I've traced them back to at least the 70th century, and I've gotten it written down.
Uh-huh.
I got quite a few pictures too.
Yeah. Now, do you want to share with us where and how you met Flavia?
Yeah, I was living in Maryland at the time, and I'd recently gotten divorced from my first wife, so I needed help raising my son. So actually it was her friend that came to work for me, and that's how I met Flavia.
Yeah.
She kind of put us together, I guess, her friend.
We're nurses.
Yeah. So yeah, one thing led to another. And then I decided to move back to Washington State. So I wanted her to come with me. And she said, well, I've heard part of that deal I had to marry her. So I did.
Well, that led up to this question I was just thinking about, was when you meet somebody in Washington, D.C., and you explain to them you live way out west on the Key Peninsula, out in the middle of the woods.
It was a big change for me.
Yeah.
She grew up mostly in Lima, Peru, which is a city of 8 million people, more than the whole state of Washington. So she went from being a city girl to a country girl.
Well, explain to us a little bit about how you were able to talk to her and convince her, because I can imagine she just didn't immediately say, hey, I don't want to be a city girl anymore, I want to move out in the woods with you.
No, that's my idea. Well, she likes adventure, she likes her travels, so she was up to the challenge, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it must have
And
taken...
we've traveled a lot since we were married. We've been to China, I've been to Australia, but not her. We've been to,
Italy.
we took our Danube cruise up from Budapest to Nuremberg, Germany.
Uh-huh.
We took a Baltic cruise where we hit all the Scandinavian countries of Russia and Poland.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of Caribbean cruises and a couple of cruises to Alaska.
Yeah.
So she's up for that anytime.
That's great. That's great. Any other life events that you want to share with us this afternoon?
No.
Okay. Well, one other question I always ask people is, what is the biggest difference that you notice from the Key Peninsula, the way it was when you had first came here in probably 1950 or so, starting school, and nowadays? What is the biggest difference you've noticed?
Population increase.
Mm-hmm.
Too many California people.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it used to be a lot quieter. Now, if you cross the road, you gotta look both ways or you'll be mowed down.
Right. Well, very good. Well, thank you very much, Bob, and I appreciate you taking your time this afternoon to record this for our oral history project. And now Flavia has kind of indicated she'd be willing to go on, so we'll hear from her what it was like when she came over.
You need to sit over there.